Hi guys. Well, hopefully there's no great big box in the bottom right hand corner where there was last week. I've changed streaming systems and hopefully this is going to be good. You're in for a real treat tonight. I'm a big fan of Michelle's work and I'm sure at the end of this you will be too. A couple of things before we get going, just to explain what the Flux review is. I'm just going to bring this up on the screen and you'll see it's a magazine. Goes out to lots of different art places. You can buy it all in all the usual stores, and it's the fluxreview.com. You can order a copy on there as well. However, it's not just a magazine. It's a seriously unbelievable exhibition, which we're all lucky to be a part of. We call ourselves the Flux family, and you can. This gives you a little bit of an idea. This was the last one at Piccadilly. There's all roughly anything between 80 and 100 artists that exhibit. And the next one is 25th to 28th of July, 206 Marylebone Road in London. And you can get tickets for it on Eventbrite. So pretty amazing, actually. Absolutely an amazing night. The opening night was fantastic in Piccadilly. 1,000 people came. But tonight's guest, rather than me go on and on about how amazing Michelle is, let's bring up a little video of her work so you can see what that's like. Told you so. So here we go. Michelle, in you come.
Hello, good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. Thanks for a lovely introduction. And obviously thanks to Flux, yourself, Gary, Lisa Gray. And I loved watching Katerina last week. So it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this week we haven't got a box over the corner, so people can see you. I haven't got to keep swapping around and hiding my face, which I'm quite happy to do, to be fair. But I met you at a different exhibition. I said you need to bring your work to Flux, which you did. As you know, I was blown away by your work the first time I saw it. We've had a big chat about it since. We've had a couple of chats. Interestingly enough, you did say to me that you didn't think you'd be able to talk for an hour. And then while we were chatting the other night, it was an hour and 20 minutes. So we thought, turns out we're all, there's quite a lot of common things go between us. And also, in some ways, the way we work, in some ways, purely because we're both technically based. So give everybody that's watching a bit of an insight how you actually started.
Oh, gosh. Well, I hadn't got any family that I could say handed down any gifts to me. I had to do all of this on my own. So the actual beginning, I suppose, is it all starts at school. You do well at school. I love doing art. I went on to art school, started doing theatre, got involved with backdrops, lighting, the makeup, the costumes, just loved the whole shebang. But I didn't actually get into fine art until much, much later. I'd always done life drawing, something that I've always loved. I just did it to keep my hand in, to draw people. Drew my children after I started having children. But I didn't actually fuse the two together until I'd been out living in Malaysia for about 3 years. And my son had put my name down to do all the backdrops, thinking that that would be good fun for me. They were about 15 foot by 30. So scaling up was something that didn't faze me. I enjoyed doing that. But actually putting the two together didn't come until I actually did my fine art degree. And I thank all the teachers and the dons for that, because I don't know what I'd have done if they hadn't have just guided me through in putting together, which was naturally something that I should have done probably years ago, but I just hadn't looked into.
So you touched on something there as well, and something that is really obvious about your work. It's huge.
Yeah, big, really. I mean, I love life size. I didn't realize how impactful it was going to be until I actually completed the first ones that were quite large. Everyone thinks of pictures, they think of putting a picture on the wall, but I actually really had this love of doing murals and big artwork. But I just think that when you go into a room and you meet with a picture that is pretty much life size, it just has that real resonation with people. They can really connect with it, you know.
And it's so the other thing which is very noticeable as well, again, we talked about this during the week, style and how people would know that's yours. And what's really obvious to me, your style's changed, your work's changed from the very first picture you did to your current work. However, the colors are still kind of there from start to currently. So why have you chosen those particular colors to work with?
The colors are very earth colors. I like everything to feel like it's coming from a natural place. When you paint a person, I don't think that they should have a reflective skin. I don't think that they are a particular color. I just want the shape and the form to be more prominent than anything else, and the colors to somehow be subtle. That works for me because obviously the ladies aren't wearing any clothes, and I just don't think that skin tone has that real brightness to it. And I think it's really important that they sort of immerse with nature as well. So I take my color palette really from autumn colors because I love those colors, and they are more of a natural base. I think they are.
So again, I think just elaborate a little bit on the fact that why your style has sort of developed. Yeah, from your first picture, which we're going to talk about actually, your first picture, which is was pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't the very first picture I did, but it was the first one that I felt had a lot more empowerment to it.
Let me just pop this up on the screen. I'm going to have to jump on one. So, and this is pregnant. So, just give us a little bit of an insight as to why you chose this particular subject.
Well, to be perfectly honest, it was a friend of mine who had been modelling for me whilst I was working through uni, and she got pregnant. And having had 5 of my own, I thought it would be interesting to do her from a different perspective. So
just hold on one second. 5 children. How on earth have you found time to paint?
They're all grown up now.
Oh, okay, that's all right then.
Not at home anymore. But yeah, she was absolutely wonderful. Nearly all of my models are friends or people I know. Word gets out that, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky that people pretty much want to queue up to come and sit for me. I'm very, very lucky. But this particular young lady was just starting having children. She hadn't got any until this point. And I just wanted to show how much she loved being pregnant, but also the sheer weight she was carrying around. Having, as I say, done it myself, I wanted to embody that. I wanted to say something. It's making that connection with your audience. And when you're just painting a picture, you want it to actually say something, convey something. And this was the first one that I felt of my work that really punched out there that this was about being pregnant. Nothing else. It wasn't about the body, the shape. It was more about she's pregnant. And you can't obviously not notice.
Well, yeah. And in fact, we did actually say earlier, you wouldn't get away. If that was a photograph, I wouldn't be able to post that on Instagram.
No, there's something about when something is that real that they somehow seem to take it down a different avenue of artwork.
Yeah,
it's not artwork.
They do. Yeah, the band, the nipple.
You know, obviously it's artwork and it's done with a brush. So, you know, I can't see the comparison or the problem. But then I never have seen that. I think that ladies are beautiful. So,
well, I have the same thing because, as you know, because you've seen my work, I photograph a lot of women too. And I was asked, because I do a lot of talks, I was actually asked why no men, and my answer is always the same. And not men are just not as aesthetically pleasing in any shape or form for me. And so and for me, my work is all about shape more than anything. You know, when I'm photographing somebody, it's about the shape. So it's interesting. I noticed from your work. Let's jump onto one of your more recent ones. It's a similar thing with you. It's shape because your models are getting that shape.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Gary. It's exactly the same as you. I started to look more at the shape of the woman. There was something that was just so beautiful about when they stand in front of me and they're turning around and I'm doing sketches and photography, and there's just something that you just think, wow, that's beautiful. And I just like the shape. I didn't want it to be almost like that sort of very detailed inspection of her skin, and it had to be something just capturing the mood of the woman. The way she was standing, you can see that she's leaning and she's on one foot, but that one just all came together. That one is one of the biggest ones I've done, actually. That one is 140 square, so that's a biggie.
So for those of you that are used to old money, that's nearly 5 foot square.
Yeah.
I'm in that category. Well, that is huge. So, and the title of this one?
Hues of Change. Now, this is all to do with the climactic, which is the menopause, basically. I'd gone from pregnancy, and once I looked at pregnancy and I looked at hormonal change, the body change, obviously everything changes physically. But being of an older age myself, hormonal change was coming for me as well, but it was at the other end, and that was menopausal. So I started researching more into that. And everyone gives you an opinion of what it's like. It's different for every woman. And obviously a lot of the models I were using, you know, a lot of them were suffering with lots of complaints. And I just wanted to bring sort of an ambience of how they were feeling to this picture as much as how she looked. And she wasn't a young woman. This particular one wasn't a young woman. So I just wanted everything to sort of embody what menopause was feeling like and what it was doing to you. And that's where my work has started to go more and more. It's more about, obviously, as we're aging, progression of. So it was all kicked off really just by hormonal upset through pregnancy that then led on to studying more about it, going into the menopause and other things, you know, that come with aging, all the good things.
Okay, let's just move on, because these four that we're looking at, or these three that we're looking at now after the pregnant one, are your latest works.
This is the one when I met you.
Sorry?
This is the one when I met you.
Oh yes, it is indeed, and and I think anybody watching is going to look at this and see exactly why I thought it's absolutely amazing. Because how does that actually come about? How are you dropping things onto the canvas, or what's your process to get that to look like it does?
Yeah, that's it. Everything evolves, doesn't it? You must have done in your work as well, Gary. You start off with a flat image, and then you start thinking, how can I progress, and how can I make this really say what I want it to say? You study the mark makings, you study what it is. I mean, I have the very strong influences of Freud, Bacon, Jenny Savile, but I also love Marlene Dumas. And I love the way that the water that she used bled into the canvas and on the paper. And that was something I wanted to somehow bring to my work, because there were some marks I just couldn't make otherwise. So yes, I changed a little bit about how I started, and I put the painting on the floor, the canvas on the floor, and I started just to map out with a very diluted wash of ink, just a sort of form of where I wanted the figure to be. And then once that had dried, I put it on the easel and thought, right, okay, this is where I hope now to bring form through using the oil paints. I wanted to bring, as you say, that technical side and bring it all together and somehow fuse the paint with the ink, but create that form that brought the woman out of off the canvas. So it started to lift the form and make it appear more 3D, not quite so flat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another thing I use is a raw canvas, because I don't want that strong reflective white that a lot of people need in their work. For me, I like to start on a raw canvas of either cotton or linen, which gives a completely different type of paint when you go across a raw canvas with all that sort of bubble, feeling, rather than the smoothness that you get from a primer canvas.
But you can see that. You can see that in those background colours. You can see that's probably a lot to do with why they look like they do.
It's a lot of dry brushing. When you get your brush, you load them up and you wipe off the excess, and then you really work. I mean, those yellows in the background, there might be about 4 or 5 different yellows that I've created that I to tone it so that it looks like it's undulating and coming out.
Absolutely superb. Yeah, that. To be fair, that is one of my favourites, that for sure.
Oh, thank you.
And so the final one that we're looking at here. Sorry, I'm going to jump back. Title.
Oh, this one, seasons 1.
Seasons 1.
Yeah.
Is there a seasons 2?
There is. Yes, there is. I have a tendency, when I don't work on one painting at a time, as everyone knows, art materials are not cheap. So I tend to work on about sort of anywhere between 2 and 4 at the same time. So a lot of them end up with similar color palette, because obviously, I'm using the same colors. So yes, I did create a seasons 2, which fortunately has gone. It's sold. But it's quite nice to do it because they feed each other. I don't know if you do that with your work, Gary. Do you ever create more than one at the same time?
No.
Really?
Well, it's very difficult, and I think I've sort of said this in the past, but sometimes it's like if you're mastering a piece of music and you've got headphones on and you're mastering the music, or you've got a pair of studio speakers. You have to have a break and go away and do something else, because your ears become way used to what you're listening to, and you miss stuff. And with what I do, because there's so many layers and layers and layers and layers, sometimes that happens. And I've had my book was at the publishers ready to go, and we were signing off pictures, and suddenly I realized that in one picture, that sitting on the, bearing in mind it's set in Victorian times, sitting on the ceiling is a fire alarm and smoke detector, and I had to stop. I had not seen it, and no one else had either. But I had to stop and say, wait a minute, I've got to go back and take that out. So you do have to have a break. You do have to. I don't finish a picture. I will start another one, yes. But I've watched Leslie Oldacre working, for example, and she does what you do. She'll have 4 paintings on the wall, and she'll be working on each one.
Yeah.
And and I can see why now, because as you've just explained, it's the fact that you've got that color on your palette and you can put it on that one. It's a little bit like how they create films, isn't it? They shoot all the same scenes, if you like, but that are dotted about throughout the movie.
Yeah, and I'm not adverse to coming back as well, but probably like yourself. Once I think I've finished, I still will go away, and I might come back a week later. Sometimes 2-3 weeks, and I'll go back and do another layer because I think it wasn't quite right. It needs another pop of color on it.
It's a little bit fatal, though, isn't it? You know, everybody says to me, "How do you know when you've actually finished?" Well, the truth is, you don't.
No, you don't. You really don't. I think that's another very tricky one. You know, you have to literally. I turn them round quite often. In my studio, I turn them round and face them away from me so that I can say, right, stop looking, get on with the next one.
Very good, very good. Okay, so we'll move on to the last one in this little section. So, first of all, what's the title of this one?
This one's called Shadows.
Shadows. Okay. And would you like to just talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, funny enough, this one and the last one, which I didn't mention, I'd actually done slightly smaller. So this one's just over 1 meter. The other one was just under 1 meter, which is small for me. But if you want to sell your work, you've got to consider that not everyone's got a huge wall space that you can put them on. But this particular one, I actually embellished with the inks a little bit more at the start. So it was the first time I introduced coloured inks at the start when I did it on the floor. So my work's constantly evolving and constantly changing, and I love that. And I think that that's hopefully sort of where the work's going to take me. I'm going to keep on experimenting with different mark making and different tools that I use. But ultimately, you still need to have that oil to bring that structure of that female form to come out of the canvas at some point, which is what I love. It's almost like making that chaotic sort of gesture at the beginning and then trying to bring in that structure as you go, which tightens it all up and actually makes sense a little bit more then.
Yeah. It's fascinating work for me. I think as you know, we've said more than once already about being a technical artist, and I am. I'm more. For me, it was always Caravaggio, Canaletto, Leonardo, all people like that really were technical artists. Particularly Canaletto. I mean, I started life in my art life as pen and ink drawing, so you know it kind of links to that sort of thing, and so I'm always amazed at that.
When you say pen and ink, were you drawing people or were you drawing structures, buildings?
I was drawing landscapes. In fact, I mean, this is random really, but as an 18-year-old 18-year-old spending 3 nights a week playing in a nightclub and the other 4 going to 06 at the airport, dancing till God knows what, I actually had a 6 foot by 5 foot high pen and ink mural that I painted on my bedroom wall. And it was a landscape. It wasn't what kids would probably do now with graffiti and everything else. It was a pen and ink landscape drawing. And
how long did that take you?
Well, it just kept coming back to it until I'd got it finished. But yeah, it was I don't know. It's quite weird thing for me to do, but I enjoyed it. So I really like doing that stuff.
Did you find that then, Gary? Because I started off doing pen and ink a long time ago as well, like yourself, where everything was like with the vanishing point, doing buildings, and I sat on street corners and just used to measure them out, you know, and draw them. I think that it's very hard when you first start. You don't know where you're going to go with your artwork. I felt like I almost had to live a bit of my life before everything made sense and everything came together.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I couldn't do what I do now 10, 12 years ago because Photoshop wasn't good enough. Cameras couldn't do what I needed to do. And I wouldn't have been able to print on metal. So, you know, I think things come to you when they should.
Yeah.
And you get, you know, you've got all those other things that you need to do in life, but things also come to you when they need to. And also, I'm a great believer in that. you meet people because you're supposed to. So all the people that I've met through the steampunk world that I'm in and the art world that I'm in, you meet them because you're supposed to. And life throws you curveballs every now and again. What defines you as a person is how you deal with those, I think. So, you know, you could we've had this chat about confidence, haven't we? Being confident about your work. It comes round to a similar thing as I spoke to Kat last week, which is when people come to see you at an exhibition, you need to talk to them, because they'll first of all, they're going to stop because they see your work, but then they really want to know you, and the two go together. And I think the actual talking to people makes a huge difference. Did you find that when you did Flux at Christmas? Did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, when you said to me, get your backside down here as much as you can, I didn't appreciate really what you meant until you're actually there. And the amount of people that stop and talk to you, or you stop and talk to, that you learn so much from, why they're there, what they're looking for, how they view your work. And a lot of them don't necessarily understand your process. And I think that's something that you definitely have to explain.
Yeah.
And I think that once you start explaining the process of how you do your work, that means so much more to them. They get it so much more. And they're more likely to stop and really look at your work then, rather than, you know, just look at the aesthetics of it. They're also looking at the production side of it. You know, how you got there, how you actually got to do it in the first place. Because none of it's immediately obvious, I suppose. I don't think, you forget that not everyone has studied art like yourself. You know, you do forget that you have to explain things. It's not.
You do, and it's quite interesting because I did say that to you, and you were in the same line as me at Flux, and I could see you talking away to people, which is great. That's what's needed. You genuinely need to be able to convey to people. You don't necessarily have to go into the full ins and outs of what you do, but sometimes, particularly I find with some of mine, it's not till I explain it that they go, oh yeah, see it now.
Yeah, the penny drops.
The penny drops. The people that really upset me the most are the people that walk past and don't say a word.
Yeah. It's funny how you always remember the ones that don't really matter, to be fair, but you do remember those people that either give you a wide berth or I mean, I had a big solo last year, and I had about 15 paintings in one room, and I had lots of people coming through. I sold lots of work. It went incredibly well, but there was one lady who literally opened the door, looked, and she went, "Oh, nudes," and walked out.
See, I would have run after her.
Like, there was part of me that just, as you say, I wanted to tackle her and bring her down and say, what? Because there was no explanation, there was nothing, and it just left me hanging. And it's something that I just can't forget. And it was one person. Yeah, it's
and that's the same thing with comedians. The person they see in the audience is the one sitting there with their arms folded, not laughing. Doesn't matter that everybody else is falling about laughing.
really?
The same thing happens. We used to have that when I had a band. We used to have that. You would sit. The people you remember are the ones that don't get up and dance and look miserable. Yeah. And yet the whole place could be absolutely pumping along, but you see them, and that makes you think, oh dear, no, what we're doing wrong. Oh God!
I accept that art is subjective. I accept that everyone's a critic because everybody thinks they are. And I have the backbone now. I'm probably like yourself. I can take a lot of flack now, and I can actually I have respect for people's work, even if I don't like it. I will have respect there. And I think what I'm looking for a lot of the time, which we have spoken about, is that validation.
Yeah.
You know, I want people to to talk to me, to give me something, because I want to know what they're thinking and feeling, because you don't get any feedback otherwise, and feedback is what propels you forward. It's what helps you as an artist. It's not just what you're doing. It's how, are they actually getting the connection you're trying to make? Are they listening to what your work's actually saying? Do they get it? Sometimes the title helps. You know, we all have to think about that very carefully. But a lot of the time they're in the dark, and as you say, you have to explain it. But I used to be told a long time ago that when you've done a piece of work, it should be able to say what it's meant to say without you being there. But I don't actually believe that anymore. I think everyone has their own interpretation because they have their own connection to something. You know, I have my connection to my work, but somebody else looking at it will have their connection to it. And that's all well and good, you know?
Yeah. And this sort of nicely leads on a little bit to pricing your work, which again, we've spoken about. And, you know, I think most people know what my attitude towards it is. I believe that picture is worth that much money. And if you can't afford to buy it, don't. But what I have said to you is, why don't you do any prints?
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I do some smaller versions of my work, or primarily, is because there are people who can't afford £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 for a picture, but they can afford £100 for a picture, or £200 for a picture, whatever. So the print side of it is quite a nice extra bit of revenue that you make from that painting that you spent all that time doing.
But you can also do so many paintings within a period of time. It's not like I can just rack them off, you know, it does take time. No, you're right. It's interesting because I'm actually doing, I'm going to do some prints for the next Flux, due to your advice. Picking out which ones I do has been quite a challenge. But I also like doing lots of drawings, because they feed my work as well. So I'm going to be bringing along some drawings, and I'm going to be bringing along some prints. I thought I'd do a bit of both. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to judge it a little bit by the response I get. So, you know, when people all come, it's going to be interesting, because I didn't have any last time, to actually see what the response is this time and see how it goes. I suppose that's another way of learning, you know?
Well, there's another way of looking at it too, is that more people have then got your work, and more people then know who you are.
And they can fit it in their room.
And they can fit it in their room, because it's smaller. And also, one of the things I think, look, Flux, I used to do, I still do the big steampunk event in August Bank Holiday. I still do that. But I used to do the Comic Cons as well. And one of the things that I love about all the exhibitions, it's the people you meet. And and some people are absolutely fascinating. And I find sometimes when I'm talking to them, an idea will pop in my head, and I'll log that, because suddenly I've got another picture that's generating just by having that conversation.
Yeah, that's where I get a lot of models, actually.
Oh, really? I was going to say that. So you mentioned earlier some of them are friends. What about people? You get people randomly accosting you in the street and say, "I want to strip off."
Well, not quite like that. If I had that power, that would be something, wouldn't it?
I think there's a lot of men that wish they had that power, to be honest.
A lot of people, when I say to them, I will go up to women sometimes, and I'll say to them, you know, would you ever think about posing for me? And a lot of people have said no, obviously. But you do sort of undress them with your eyes and get an idea of, you know, their form would look really nice on canvas. But I was in a dress shop the other day, and this was in Bury St Edmunds, and I was just happened to be buying something, and the lady said, "Oh, have you got your email?" So as you do, just put my business card to her and said, "You know, there it is." And she went, "Oh, you're an artist." And while I was paying, she'd looked me up, and she said, "Do you use models?" I said, "No, I use ordinary people. I said, I don't really work with models because they have a certain stance, and I want them to be real women, people who are just standing in front of me that not totally sure what they're doing. It just adds something to the work, in my opinion." And she went, can I come and sit for you?" And I went, yeah, no problem. And I get that quite a lot. And I mean, I know that you do too, because you've told me people will
I do.
and say, "I'd love to be in your artwork." But no,
Yeah.
I never will say that. But I'm sure a lot of people have come to you and said that.
They do. They do. And sometimes it can often be, you think, oh, if this is going to be part of my story, then I've got to come up with a character. And sometimes I will see somebody, especially at an event, steampunk event, that's dressed in an amazing way, and instantly the character comes to mind. But obviously, my work is very, very story based.
Yeah, you have
There's a whole big, deep story to every image I create. So I know the character, I know who they're married to, I know how many kids they've got in my story the minute I speak to them. And that happens quite a lot. And that's how I started off with 6 people, ended up with 150 in my first story, because that just happens when you talk to people. And the steampunk world in particular is so damn creative that you can't help but find some amazing people to be in it. It's interesting how you find your models, and then when you see that model naked.
Yeah, I know where you're going. That's what gives me the idea of how I want to stand or sit.
Yes,
or,
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. See, for me, I do something. That's where you and I have something similar again there. I picture in my head sort of the way I want to place them on the canvas, and then it's just a matter of getting them to move them into that position. And they're always a little bit tight the first time, they're shoulders back, breathe in, and it's always towards the end of the session that they're actually sitting there and lolling a lot more, and that's what I want more. I want them as sort of embedded, really sort of relaxed. But yeah, I'd like to think that I do get the best out of them. They seem happy with it anyway. And I don't depict their faces, because a lot of people ask me about that. Why don't you do the faces? But it's not about the face. My work is all about the body and what's happening,
The form,
the range and the form, and seeing that shape that evolves from when they're in front of you. They have become my bowl of fruit, for want of a better expression. They're not really a real person when I'm getting in that sort of art mode. You're not. You must be the same. You're not looking at them as a female woman in that sense. You're looking at them in the light that you want to portray them.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the shape they're making. That's absolutely. And interestingly, so one question that's just come to mind. We've got someone in the chat who's just put a little comment up, so we just should be able to bring that. Yep, fantastic work. So we've got a number of people watching, so that's at least that's good. We've got more than one.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Nice to
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, Trudy. That's lovely for you to say that.
Very sweet.
Now, interestingly enough, this question's just come to mind. Do you sketch that person when they're modeling for you and then go and do the painting, or are they standing in front of you while you're creating your painting?
Well, a long time ago, I used to do them when they were standing in my spare room, whatever you want to call it, conservatory, before I got my studio. But like you evolve with technology and you use it. So I'm very lucky now to have quite a vast studio. So I do a bit of everything now. So I do photograph them. I mean, my photographs would not be great photographs. They're just photographs that I can reference, which I like.
Yeah.
So I do have good lighting that I can use, and I have North End lighting in the studio. But I really want to get that tonal quality, which comes from lighting. So that is a must for me. I do photograph, but if there's certain things that I want to sketch, I will sketch. But I haven't been known to use more than one body in one picture. So if I've had a model come in and I thought, oh, I really like that, but I can't get her back, then I will use somebody else's hand if I want to draw into the hand, or if I want to allude to certain areas. But because my work's not necessarily about that one person, it's about women in general. It's about bringing all women together and understanding that we're all different shapes and sizes.
So that's interesting, because the thing that I always say with my work in particular is they're not portraits. These people that I work with, they actually look how I want them to look, and in my mind that's how they will look. And well, they call me the digital plastic surgeon, because if it's a man with a pot belly, I'll yeah, that goes in, I get rid of that. So I do quite a bit of enhancement in certain areas, but that's just because that's the character and that's how I want them to look, and they all understand that it's not a portrait. But I haven't had anybody say to me, "Oh my God, why have you made me look like that?" So and sometimes, so I can appreciate that. How do the women that you paint, what do they think of the end result?
Well, touch wood, I've not had a bad comment from them. They've all loved it. Some of them have bought the work, a lot of them have. And I've used them more than once. But yeah, some people's husbands have bought the work. It's been very interesting, but I've never had a bad comment from the ladies that have done it, and they all see themselves in the work, so they know it's them, which is great, because obviously I want them to know it's them. I want them to know that it's their shape and their form, because otherwise it isn't them, and then what's the point of getting them in the first place? But I love the fact that their response is always one of sort of more awe and wonderment of, oh wow, do I really look like that? Because every woman only ever sees the worst in herself. She never sees her good bits. She, as you say, she'll only see her flaws. And because I'm just really focusing on the shape, they forget what a damn good shape they've got.
Yeah.
And I say to them, but that is your shape. It's just the way that I've sat you or I've moved you round. But it's you. That is the shape that I'm depicting, and it's your shape. And so, they're always very pleasantly surprised. And I like the fact they think my work's beautiful, even though it comes from a place of mark making, which isn't beauty. The research I do, which my studio wall is covered in, is not necessarily pretty stuff. It's everything from, acne to varicose veins, spider veins, all of the joys of growing old. But they give me the marks that I want to make on the painting, and they're the ones that I like to look and see how they bleed into the picture. So although people think they're beautiful marks, they do come from quite a grim place. But it's every artist has their research, and this is mine.
Yep. Another little comment from Paolo. Excellent idea. He's talking about this interview that we're doing here, and that's the idea. Very interesting to listen and watch the artist. I think I've got 15 booked in so far, so it's really we have another one too that's coming up here. Amazing work by an amazing person, artist and friend. That's obviously somebody you know, is it?
Nice to know I've got friends out there, Gary.
Yeah, well, it's nice that they actually have taken the time to watch as well, because that's what this is all about. We're just delving a little bit into what people can do. And here we go. There's another one. Wow, we've got some great ones coming in now. Wonderful work. So great to see how Michelle has evolved over the years. Interesting to hear her insight and view. So that again. I think it's superb. You were nervous about this. No two ways about it. You didn't know you could talk so long. And look how it is. We're just two people having a chat.
Yeah.
There's a few people watching, and there'll probably be a few people that watch it afterwards. But we're having a chat. It's not like we've got millions watching, so it doesn't really matter too much. But it's been it's just so fascinating to find out, really. And from my point of view, find out how other people work. And again,
well, it's inspiring, isn't it? I mean, when you hear of other, this is why I think when artists talk to other artists, it's really important to share things. I think sharing processes, sharing where you get your research from and what your work's about will inspire other artists. And I think that's what we're here for. It's something that we all want to do. It's not just about creating your own artwork. It's sort of spreading the word and wanting everyone to rejoice in doing something that they enjoy. And I feel very grateful that I can actually do something that I love every day. Took a long time to get to this point, but I'm finally here.
Well, it does. And how do you feel about one of the things I absolutely love is inspiring people to go and have a go. And it doesn't matter for me. It doesn't matter whether they're going to write a bit of music or a poem or a book, but do something. So it's funny. It's people like us, and when you get to a past a certain age point, that you do suddenly think to yourself, you know what, you need to leave your mark for number one.
Yeah.
But also, I would hate to leave the planet and not having done the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah,
and there's so many people like that.
Yeah, there is. I mean, that sort of led me on to a conversation that we had a while ago about it's not just about completing the piece of work. It's also where it hangs. And I know that you see yours through to the end. And I've been very privileged for certain people to allow me to go and see my work when they've hung it in their home as well. And that really gets me quite emotional. Does it get you emotional when you see your work in someone else?
Yeah, I always deliver my work if I can. A little bit difficult if someone buys it and they're abroad, but excuse me, somebody at Flux actually did say at Flux, would you deliver it to Holland? And I went, yeah, have a little day trip, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
But because I like to see where it's hung, and
Yeah.
I like to give advice on light.
Yeah.
Because my work is so based around light, it's quite important that it hangs in the right place, really. So I like to see that. I have been surprised. I've certainly been surprised by some people that have bought my work, and when I've turned up, every single part of the house, including the backs of the doors, has got artwork on it, and I'm thinking, well, there's not a square inch left. I don't know where you're going to put this picture. Yeah, I've had that before, but yeah, it's quite you do get a bit emotional, but I think I'll share this with you in a second. Let me ask you a question. How did you feel when you sold your very first picture?
Oh gosh, I was very young. I'd done a draw, as you said, it was a pen and ink I'd done sitting on the side of the road, and my mother and father had got a couple of friends come round, and he happened to be an art collector, and he said, I'd like to buy that off you. And it's funny when you talk about pricing, but of course at the time I had no idea what to ask, and I think I just took whatever he offered. But it just, that started to give me the belief, I suppose, that hey, if someone's willing to give you some money for something that you've created, perhaps there's something in this. Perhaps I can go further with this.
Yeah.
So that takes, it's that other form of validation again. It's which, as an artist, you constantly need. You need someone to constantly say, it's good, I'm liking it, I will pay for that. I still, to this day, when people buy a piece of work, it still means so much, because you're still getting that same validation you did as with the first one. It hasn't changed. It's exactly the same feeling is still coming through of, wow, thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, my father painted oil paints. He moved on to acrylics later in life, but oil paintings, and he stopped because people kept wanting to buy them. And he said, but that's not why I paint. And people go, well, come on, you can sell me. No, that's not. I paint because I enjoy painting. Once I've got to start painting to order, that's not enjoyable for me anymore, which is quite interesting. Whereas, as we've said when we've been chatting, someone getting their credit card out and paying for one of your pictures is validation in itself. And
and it allows you to keep going.
Well, it allows you to keep going, but it's real. First picture I sold was to Caroline, who came to Comic-Con. She bought my picture. It was a lot of money, and it was the first one I'd sold. And I actually, driving home from London Comic Con up the M11, I pulled over on the hard shoulder and sat there and bawled my eyes out because I could not believe that someone wanted to buy a piece of my work. I don't cry now every time I sell a picture. And in fact, the lady that bought one of my pictures at Flux, give me a cuddle. It was like, come on. And, she's invited me over to Northern Ireland she's got so much art in her house to see it. But that's all part of it.
Yeah.
I think
you get a book.
It's not just selling someone a picture.
No, it's not. I think
it is all part of it. Yeah, it is good.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. The bond becomes very strong, and the people that have bought one piece, it's not about them buying another piece. Even if they do, you then have that connection which stays with you. And
yeah,
they have all been so wonderful. They still follow me. They support me when I have any shows, exhibitions, and it means an awful lot. They don't realize how much they actually mean to you. People that buy your work and even just talk about your work. It's respect goes both ways. It's a lovely feeling.
So what's going to be interesting, I think, is have you back on in maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 months time,
and say years,
and see where you've got to.
Yeah,
and see how doing the Flux at Summer has been and all the rest of it. We've got a few minutes left, but I just want to last question from me anyway is what next?
Oh, what next? I mean, the way I look at it is my work's evolved so much ever since I graduated, which was only 2009. My goodness, I just know I want to expand everything that I'm doing. The whole process, I will constantly keep on progressing with it and moving with it, looking at how I can keep making those marks and hopefully get more models in, more people to come to me. I don't see things not changing. I think not when it comes to my work, I think that's constantly going to evolve. And I don't want to become stagnant and do the same thing every day. But when it comes to, exhibiting and things like that, I never know where it's going to take me. I sort of go with the flow, I suppose, like most artists do. You never know which part's coming up next or where you're going to go next because you don't know who you're going to meet. And that can change the course of whatever the way you think you're going to go. The course can change quite drastically just by one person you meet, whether it be an artist, a friend, a model, or an exhibitor. You just don't know where you're going to go with it. I feel very, very blessed and very lucky that I get to do this every day, even though some days are more challenging than others.
Well, I just put your website up and I'll do it again because the first time I spelt it wrong. Missed the E out, so that's nice. But anyway, this is where people can find you, and you've got a great website. You can see all the pictures that we've spoken about.
Yeah, my son's very helpful. I must thank him. I don't know where I'd be without my son. Sometimes he helps me out on everything that I do. He's an artist himself, but he also puts up with a lot of things that I can't do that I'm learning to do.
Yeah, and but this is another thing as well. We all have to do all the we have to do the social media stuff, all of that really gets on your nerves. There are people that, oh my God, I haven't posted anything today, and get in a panic. Whereas I kind of feel like, well, I just post when I really think about it.
Yeah.
But it's also fair to say promotion is a really big thing, and you get to a plateau.
Yeah,
and just can't get over that extra thing. I mean, I've got, I don't know, 6,000 odd followers on Facebook, but I can't seem to go any further. And it's similar to Instagram. You get to a certain level, and what I found out and what I realized is half the trouble is Instagram, Facebook, they want you to pay to promote yourself, and then suddenly you start getting more people. You know, that it's all about that. Well, they're a business, aren't they? So they're going to do that.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, minefield.
But you know, so
yeah.
Well, despite thinking you'd only be able to talk for 20 minutes, that is our hour up.
Oh,
so
you know what? It's you make it a pleasure. You really do. I mean,
well, I'm glad of that, because that's what I'm here for, and I hope that everybody that's been online watching has actually got a huge insight into Michell Watson, and thank you very much for being my guest.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, and I hope to meet loads of people at the Flux exhibition when we're all there together, and I'm sure we'll have another yarn to have as well. So
right, so if you stay on for a while, sit in the green room, I'm going to just talk to people about, give a little quick video of the Flux exhibition, and then I will join you in the green room. Thanks very much.
And thank you everyone who tuned in. Thank you.
Told you it was a good one. That was absolutely brilliant. I'm so much insight into how Michell works. Absolutely superb. So I did say there's a quick little video. This only sort of just over a minute. Just shows you where Flux is, what's happening to it, and then that's me done. And next week's artist. So next week's artist is another good one. Let me just bring my slides up, as we've done with Michell. So next week's artist, Kerry Lynn. She's a photographic artist, so this is going to be very interesting for me for sure. But this will be next Thursday, 7 o'clock, same time, same place. Should be able to see that. And I've not spoken to Kerry yet, so I've got that pleasure to come. But this is her work, as you can see there, which we will talk about next week. So that's pretty much it from me, other than to say thanks very much for watching. And now I'm just going to bring in this video. That's the wrong one. We've already seen that. Thank you very much. That'll be this one. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for everybody that's been watching, and this is Flux.